So it says the aircraft heading is 045. Aircraft is on radial 080 from a VOR. Selected course on HSI, a horizontal situation indicator, is 090. The HSI indications and its deviation bar will be what? So in this case, let's look at the HSI first. HSI is nothing but your horizontal situation indicator. Okay. Now in this instrument, there will be a magnetic heading. It's like an RMI. RMI tells us what magnetic heading, the QDM towards the VOR, QDR from VOR directly. That's it. Now HSI is similar to that. It will give you the magnetic heading that you are flying. Then it has something like OBS selector, a normal OBS selector. It has the CDI needle. Okay, if it goes to the left, it can go to the right. Accordingly, you're to the left or right of the deviated track. So it has that feature of the OBS, the CDI needle, right? Okay, that's it. That is one common thing it has. And the second thing is the to from indication. Now in OBS selector, you have a to from indication written to from like this. But over here, you see this small triangle white color, that is your to from indicator. So if it is pointing towards the course that you have set, okay, if it is pointing above this aeroplane or if it is situated above this aircraft symbol, that means you are flying towards the station. If this same triangle is below, okay, instead of being here, it is somewhere, that's, I'll draw it, it is here like this, it is here. So that means the indication is from indication. So remember, if the triangle if the triangle is behind is ahead of aircraft or above the aircraft, above or ahead of aircraft, so that signals, or the meaning of that is to indication. If this triangle is behind, this is ahead, this is behind. If it's behind, if it is behind aircraft symbol, that means it is from. The meaning of that is from. Okay. Next thing, in case of normal OBS selector, we had normal sensing and reverse sensing, right? In case of HSI, you won't have that error or that drawback or disadvantage. You only have normal sensing here. Okay, you only have normal sensing. You will never have reverse sensing in case of HSI. So what you have to do is, whatever direction the needle moves, that direction you have to turn your aircraft left or right. Okay, so no reverse sensing, only normal sensing. So again, you have the magnetic heading. You have this white line. This is the course. Okay, course pointer. This will be the CDI needle which goes to the left or right. This is the airplane symbol, and this triangle will be your to and from indicator. If it is ahead of aircraft means to, if it is behind aircraft that means from. So either direction. Okay, so let's solve the question and then try to understand how to answer such questions. Now aircraft heading is 045 and radial is 080. So let's draw this. There is a VOR station. You are situated on radial 080 from VOR. So this is your radial 080 and you have done a setting. Now in case of OBS, we used to say OBS setting of so and so. In this case, we will use the word course irrespective of radial. Just the course is what they use for HSI. So in this case, you have selected a radial of 090, but with respect to HSI, we call it course, the selection that you have made. Okay. Next thing, you are flying on a heading of 045. You are flying on a heading of 045. Now remember, in a normal OBS selector, I have repeated it many times that aircraft heading is irrelevant. But in case of HSI, aircraft heading will tell you whether you're flying outbound from VOR or inbound towards the VOR. In other VOR questions where OBS is involved, the aircraft heading will be irrelevant and it will be given in the question that whether you're flying inbound or outbound. But in case of HSI, this is not the case. What happens is heading will be given to you. Basis on that heading, you will judge whether you're flying outbound, inbound. Okay, so that is another difference between a normal OBS and this HSI question. Now in this case, you are on radial 080 and your heading is 045. Your heading is 045. Fine. So this is the case. Now you have selected a course of 09er 0. So that means which is this course. Okay. Next, what will HSI show? Now this HSI, what will it show? First of all, it will show a magnetic heading of 045. Now this is just for understanding. Okay. Now in this case, in place of this, there will be 045 shown. The course pointer will be towards 090 and the CDI needle will be left or right. We will see that now. So let's draw that HSI. So your heading will be 045 magnetic heading. So that will be shown to you. The course pointer will be towards 090. So this is your aircraft in the center. Okay. The course pointer will be towards 090. Remember that. Now 090 is to the right hand side of 080. Agree? It is to the right hand side of 080. Now you are flying outbound from this VOR station. Flying outbound from this VOR station, in order to intercept 090, you will have to make what kind of turn? A right hand turn. Right? So the CDI needle will move in what direction? It will move somewhere to the right hand side. So these are the dots, let's say. So the CDI needle will be to the right hand side by some amount, and the to from indication. I told you, if the triangle is ahead of aircraft, if it is ahead of aircraft, that means to. If it is behind aircraft, that means from indication. So now we are going away from the VOR. So the triangle will be somewhere here, like this, behind this aircraft symbol. Okay, so from indication. So the final answer is CDI indication will be right hand side and the from indication, the to and from indication will be behind aircraft. So the correct answer will be what? Behind the airplane symbol, behind the airplane symbol. C and D eliminated because it talks about being ahead. Now next thing is behind the airplane symbol with from flag showing. If the triangle is behind, so that means it means from. So correct option will be option A. Now over here they don't talk about CDI, whether it goes to the left or right. So good thing, very simple question to answer that way. But otherwise the CDI will be towards right hand side and the from indication will be behind your aircraft. So this is how you solve this questions of HSI. Let's go to next. Question 32. Aircraft heading is 300. Aircraft is on radial 280 and you have selected a course of 270. What will HSI show? So this is your VOR. This is your radial 280. This is your radial 270. This is where your aircraft is situated on this radial 280. And the heading is 300. Heading is 300. Heading is 300. Okay. Now 270 is to the left of 280. Aircraft is flying outbound because a heading of 300 will take you away from the VOR. It will take you away from the VOR, right? So that is how we have determined that this aircraft is going away. The radial select currently the current radial is 280. The selected radial is 270, or selected course is 270 in case of HSI. So your diagram will look something like this. Your magnetic heading of 300, okay, and the course will be 270. Okay, the course will be 270 selected. This is your aircraft symbol in the center, right? And the to from indication, now you're going outbound, so the from indication should be shown to you, and that from indication will be shown as a triangle which is behind this airplane symbol, and the CDI indication will be left hand side, like this. So this is your diagram. Airplane is pointing up. Okay, this is from indication, CDI to the left. So the correct answer is behind the airplane symbol with a from indication. Behind the airplane symbol with a from indication. Delta. Question 33. Aircraft heading is 150. Aircraft is on radial 100, and you have selected a radial or a course of 090. So let's draw this. This is your VOR. You are on radial 100. You have selected radial 090. Aircraft heading is 150. Aircraft heading is 150, meaning with this heading aircraft will only fly away from the VOR station. So that means what will be your indications like? It will be a magnetic heading of 150 here. The course selected is 090, right? So the course selected arrow will be 090. This will be your airplane symbol in the center. Now, since you're flying outbound, you will be shown a from indication, and that from indication will be shown in the form of a triangle, which will be behind aircraft. Okay, and then 090 is to your left hand side, so the CDI needle will be to the left. Okay, so this is your complete diagram for your HSI. A from indication, course selected 090, heading displayed on the top, the CDI to the left hand side. So the correct option will be option behind the airplane symbol with a from flag showing. Let's go to question 34. What is the maximum distance between VOR and DME facility if they are to have the same Morse code identifier? So to do this, you have to do the DME chapter. The DME chapter 282. You have this VOR DME frequency pairing on the last page of the chapter. Here they have told us all the information of VOR DME combination. So if they are co-located in a terminal area, the distance between them should be 100 feet. And if they are not located in terminal area together, the distance between them should be 2000 feet. In that case, call signs are the same, frequencies are paired. If they are not associated, not co-located, but serving same location, for example, Mumbai, then call sign or DME letter, third letter should be 0. Zulu, correction. and frequencies are paired, and if they are very much separated from each other, like more than 6 miles apart, the call signs will be different. So these three things you have to remember. Okay, so accordingly, the correct the correct answer will be the maximum distance if they are to have the same identifier. So in terminal area, it should be 100 feet. Outside terminal area, if you want to have the same Morse code identification, it should be 2000 feet. Now 2000 feet equals to 600 meters. So option B is the correct answer. 300 meter is approximately 1000 feet. So accordingly, 2000 feet will be 600 meters. Okay, so remember that table very well. Question 35. A VOR and DME are co-located. You want to identify the DME by listening to the call sign, Morse code. Having heard the call sign 4 times in 30 seconds, so out of that 4 times, at what time will you hear the DME call sign? So remember, you will hear DME call sign only once. Okay, so 3 times you will hear a call sign of VOR, and the fourth time you will hear the call sign of DME. And now the call sign of VOR and DME can be identified. How the DME call sign will be, its pitch will be higher than the VOR call sign. Okay, so remember, VOR call signs are repeated thrice. The DME call sign is repeated fourth time, that is the last time. Okay, and then the DME tone will be, its pitch will be higher than the VOR. So the correct answer will be DME call sign is the one with the higher pitch that was broadcast only once. So correct option will be alpha. VOR 3 times, DME 1 time. So 3 plus 1, 4. Let's go to the next question. Question 36. In order to plot a bearing from a VOR, okay, you want a bearing that is radial from a VOR, a pilot needs to know the magnetic variation of what? So like I said in the previous lectures, in order to solve questions related to VOR, you apply magnetic variation at the VOR station. In case of NDBs, you apply magnetic variation at aircraft location. Okay, so for VOR, variation is to be applied at the VOR station. At the VOR station. Question 37. Aircraft is required to approach a VOR station via 244 radial. Via 244 radial. That means you are flying inbound on the radial of 244. In order to obtain normal sensing or correct sensing, the OBS should be set to what? So very important. Again, the basics. You are on radial 244. The reciprocal of that radial 244 will be 244 minus 180, 064. Radial 064. Now there are two possibilities. If you are flying outbound from VOR on this radial 244, you put 244 in the OBS setting and you get from indication. If you are flying towards the VOR, what will you put in the OBS? You will put 064. Since you are flying inbound, you will get a 2 indication. So as per the question, you are flying towards a VOR via 244 radial. The correct sensing will be what? To put 064 with a 2 indication. What is the maximum theoretical range that aircraft at flight level 150 receives signal from a VOR which is at 609 feet above mean sea level? So to do this type of question, very commonly asked in exam, the formula is range equals to 1.25 H1 plus H2. So 1.25, somewhere it's 1.23. So H1 is 15,000, the height of your aircraft. H2 is 609 feet, height of VOR, or the vertical distance of VOR. Square root of 15,000 will be 122 approximate. Square root of 609 will be 25 approximate. So 1.25 into 147, 183.75. So approximately 184 nautical mile. So if you're flying at flight level 150 and VOR is 609 feet away from you, the maximum range that you can use this VOR for navigation will be for 184 nautical miles. Let's go to question number 39. RMI is slave to a remote indicating compass. We all know that radio magnetic indicator gives us three pieces of information: magnetic heading of aircraft, the magnetic bearing to a VOR station, and the magnetic bearing to an NDB station. Right? So it obtains its magnetic heading from a remote indicating compass. Now this has gone unserviceable and it is locked on to a reading of 090. So the magnetic heading shown by the RMI is wrong, right? Because RMI is connected to a compass which is unserviceable, so the headings displayed will also be erroneous at times. The tail of the VOR pointer shows 135. The available information from the instrument is what? So now I will draw an RMI. Here you will have the magnetic heading. Okay, then it has two pointers, one for VOR, another for NDB. Now VOR pointer, I am highlighting it. Okay, now always remember the head of this pointer will show QDM, magnetic bearing to the VOR station. The tail of this pointer will show QDR, magnetic bearing from the VOR station. Okay, this is for VOR. Let's forget NDB for now, but this will be QDM towards the NDB station. This will be QDR from the NDB station, right? Now over here we don't know the magnetic heading because the compass is malfunctioning. The tail of the VOR shows 135. That means this is the tail of VOR, which is 135. So QDR is 135. If QDR is 135, QDM will be the reciprocal of that, which will be 315. Right? So if QDR is 135, that means we are situated on radial 135. Okay. Next thing, relative bearing. Can we find out relative bearing from this question? The formula for relative bearing is QDM towards the NDB station minus magnetic heading, right? So now in this question, in this particular thing, we do not we have QDM. Now this can be NDB or VOR station, right? So let's consider VOR station. We know the QDM for VOR station is 315. But do we know with guarantee, okay, with for sure, the magnetic heading of aircraft is 090? No, because its given compass is unserviceable. So that means the heading which it is showing is not reliable, or it may be wrong at some point. Okay, so that's why we cannot put magnetic heading here, and we cannot solve this equation further. Therefore, relative bearing is difficult to be determined, but we know for sure that we are situated on radial 135 and the bearing towards the station is 315. So the only the only option which satisfies this question will be option number delta, the correction, option number alpha, that we are on radial 135. Relative bearing is unknown because magnetic heading is unknown to us. This 315 is not radial. This one is your QDM, okay, bearing towards the VOR. So this is how you solve the sum. Let's go to next question. Which of the following statements concerning the directional signal or variable signal of a VOR is correct? Now we all know VOR transmits two signals. A reference signal which is fixed in direction, a variable signal which rotates around the VOR, okay, and accordingly the phase difference between the reference and variable signals is determined, and that phase difference, your angular difference between them, is nothing but your radial. Okay, so I have explained this in previous videos also. So we have to determine what is correct regarding directional signal or variable signal. The transmitter varies the amplitude of the variable signal by 30 Hz each time it rotates. The rotation of the variable signal at 30 times per second gives it the characteristics of 30 Hz amplitude modulation. The transmitter changes the frequency of the variable signal. The receiver adds 30 Hz before combining it with the reference signal. So the correct option will be option number Bravo. Always remember, if this is your VOR station and this is your reference wave which is fixed in direction, this is, let's say, your variable signal. Now reference signal are frequency modulated, variable signal are amplitude modulated, and they rotate around the VOR station. So they rotate at 30 times per seconds, giving it the characteristics of 30 Hertz amplitude modulation. Okay, so correct option will be option Bravo. With this question, we have come to the end of this lecture. So I hope you have understood this. You have understood this 10 set of, a set of 10 questions very well, especially the HSI, the ones involving horizontal situation indicator.